Did you know? Many of the creatures made for the Pokémon series' first and second generations were revised or simply scrapped altogether. While some Pokémon were slightly redesigned, there have been whole Pokémon lines that were removed or cut down, even late into development. Sometimes these cut Pokémon would appear in later generations, but several never saw the light of day. Before we begin, I'd like to give a special shout out to the Helix Chamber, Dr. Lava, and the countless fans who dedicated their time to the research of Pokémon beta content. My name is Bertoli, and joining me today is PushDustIn. We hope you'll join us as we dive into the unknown. It's important to keep in mind that many of the names and illustrations used in this video are not official. They are, however, based on real in-game sprites and concept art unearthed by fans over the years.
When it came time to choose what monsters would make the official roster for the first two Pokemon games, Red and Green, Game Freak decided to hold an intra-company poll. Some of the Pokemon mentioned in this video first premiered in images replicating that poll, seen in the Satoshi Tajiri manga. A full resolution image of the poll was never released, but that hasn't stopped fans from trying their best to squeeze every detail from the smallest of images. It's at this time that we feel the need to note that many of the Pokemon listed here in this video have names that are very descriptive of the creature, and were never localized nor finalized. We will be using the official names whenever possible, but please keep in mind a decent amount of these Pokemon never received actual names. Plants and animals, both living and extinct, are perhaps the biggest influence for Pokemon, so it's no surprise that many of the monsters that didn't make it were modeled after various forms of wildlife. Some of the best examples include KUROKKI, a crocodile with luxurious hair; Diel, a deer covered in alien-looking spikes; Jagu, a hammer-headed shark with a harpoon-like nose; and Kakutatsu, a captivating cactus creature. The monstrous Gaon was also scrapped. This Pokemon was likely inspired by Godzilla, and its name is rumored to be based on the kaiju's iconic screech. And then there's Barunda. This literal balloon Pokemon just didn't have what it took to rise to the top, and it seemed that Jigglypuff would go on to take its place as the original balloon Pokemon.
Not every Pokemon was ousted after their initial design. Early designs of the Weedle and Poliwag families were actually shown off on Game Freak's website in 1997. The post has been archived by Pokefans and shows a number of drastic differences. The first design found on the old website was actually one of Dragonair, who was updated with a sleeker look. Weedle, Kakuna, and Beedrill would be updated in order to make their final evolution cooler, while the Poliwag line was also updated to make sure its final evolution, Poliwrath, lined up with the design of its previous stages and appeared stronger. In a bombshell interview from summer 2018, it was revealed that Game Freak had initially planned a second evolution for Pikachu after Raichu. This final form was named GOROCHU and would have featured fangs and a powerful horn. The back sprite of this fabled evolution would eventually be uncovered, showcasing its glorious horn for all the world to see. According to Pokemon character designer Ken Sugimori, GOROCHU was cut from the games due to issues regarding gameplay balance. What a shame.
In February 2019, a compilation of assets from Pokemon's first generation were leaked online. The Pokemon prototype preservation site, the Helix Chamber, documented this early build and its lost Pokemon. Due to Game Freak's optimization during Red and Green's production, it was only the Pokemon's back sprites that survived. Zamis Clark, known online by his handle Wacko, was reportedly responsible for leaking the prototype, along with other beta content. At the time, Clark was only 24 years old, and he managed to avoid jail time, receiving a 15-month jail suspension instead. Clark was also rumored to be the source behind the Gold and Silver Space World demo leak and the discovery of Generation 4 beta sprites. When the Helix Chamber showed off their recreations of the back sprites in a stream in February 2019, there was some controversy among beta Pokemon fans. This was due to multiple factors. The first was that Helix Chamber didn't clarify that some of the assets in the ROM hack were unofficial. There were also issues with the way the information was presented. Some sites, such as Nintendo Soup, mistakenly stated that some of the content in the stream was official. After the live stream, the Helix Chamber clarified that only the back sprites were replicas, while the front sprites were completely fan-made. They also clarified which content was recreated and made the decision to remove any fan-created content from their website. This helped clear up confusion.
Despite the fact the front sprites weren't retrievable, there was, and still is, a wealth of knowledge to be found from the back sprites. One example was a Snow Yeti, possibly named Boo. It's speculated this phantom may have been a male counterpart to Jinx. It seems a Zubat pre-evolution may have also been planned. For a long time, fans were confused about the duplicate Zubat cry present in the game. With the prototype leaked, light was shed on the extra cry, and fans were able to see what this baby bat would have looked like. Speaking of pre-evolutions, it appears Vulpix was going to have a baby form as well. Named MIKON in what is referred to as the Space World leak, this baby fox would have had only 3 tails. The Pokédex entry for Vulpix in the final version of Generation 1 reflects this, as it says, at the time of birth, it has just one tail. The tail splits from its tip as it grows older. It seems baby forms of both Meowth and Ponyta were also planned to show up in the original games. Other Pokemon lost their later evolutions. Psyduck had a middle evolution stage before Golduck at one point, which fans lovingly refer to as Weird Duck. Marowak also had a third evolution which was scrapped. The back sprite seems to show this newest stage holding a baby Cubone, finally giving the Cubone family the happy ending it so desperately needed. This parent-holding child design also lined up with the theory that the Pokemon Kangaskhan was originally going to be part of the Cubone line. That being said, it seems the final Cubone stage and Kangaskhan coexisted at one point. Squirtle evolutions Wartortle and Blastoise were originally two different families of Pokemon. In the leaked assets, a baby Blastoise and a beefed-up Wartortle can be found. In the end, these families were merged by Game Freak during Pokemon Red and Green's development, possibly for balancing reasons or to make Wartortle and Blastoise more cohesive.
The second generation of Pokemon is easily the best documented when it comes to cut and beta content. This is due to the previously mentioned Gold and Silver prototype leak. This leak is usually referred to as the Space World demo, as it resembles the content that was previously seen in the demo for Nintendo's then yearly gaming showcase, known as Space World. Japanese fans who were lucky enough to attend the show in 1999 were given the chance to play an early version of Gold and Silver, which had a number of differences from the final game. It also revealed a lot of crossovers with Generation 1, likely due to the development times being so close together. Some of the sprites found in the leak were identical to Pokemon Blue, which was a revised version of Pokemon Red and Green in Japan. Gold and Silver formally introduced pre-evolutions to the series, which meant that some players' favorite Pokemon got adorable baby forms. As well as those in the final game, Meowth, Ponyta, and Vulpix's pre-evolution were revisited in Gold and Silver's initial stages. The leak showed that Tangela had a baby form and a second stage evolution planned. Tangela would eventually see a second stage, called Tangrowth, in a later generation, but Tangrowth and the better version would be drastically different. Other abandoned babies include Paris, Grimer, Goldeen, Growlithe, and Doduo. A baby version of Mr. Mime was also cut, but the concept would be visited again in a later generation. The second generation Girafarig also had a pre-evolution, which looked like two spooky ghosts attached in the middle. Some baby forms were kept, but still were drastically changed. Pichu, Cleffa, Igglypuff, Smoochum, Elekid, Magby, and Tyrogue would see redesigns before the launch of Gold and Silver.
Baby Pokemon weren't the only ones who didn't make the official roster. Some evolutions and entire lines never made it past the prototype stage. Those that lost evolutions included Quillfish, Weepinbell, Lickitung, Farfetch'd, and Ditto. Some of these, like Farfetch'd and Lickitung, would eventually see second stage evolutions down the line, both quite different from their original designs. Weepinbell and Ditto were planned to have evolutions tied to items, evolving with the help of a poison stone and a metal coat respectively. This planned metal Ditto looked especially silly, with its pointy head and gaping mouth. Pinsir had a planned evolution that almost looked like one of Evangelion's angels. Porygon 2 also changed substantially, going from a lion made of spheres to a smoothed out version of the original Porygon. An overgrown Leafeon was set to appear, but was nixed before launch. The Pokemon Jumpluff, Blissey, Octillery, and Politoed featured decently drastic changes throughout development. The three legendary dogs, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, would all be redone to appear more powerful and a bit less emo. A fair share of Gen 2 starters and their evolutions were reworked drastically. Chikorita's second form, Bayleaf, was revised to look more like a dinosaur. The entire Fire starter line was originally based on a series of bears, and the Water starter line was set to resemble a trio of seal-like dinosaurs. The Totodile line would replace these designs in the end, but another seal Pokemon, Poplio, would show up in Generation 7 as a starter. Other water Pokemon included the first draft design of Remoraid, who resembled a revolver, and Bomushika, a sea lion Pokemon who balanced a flaming ball on its nose. Bomushika would have been the first fire and water type to exist in the Pokemon series, a combination that was seen many years later in Generation 6's mythical Volcanion. A full line of aquatic Pokemon were cut, with each stage representing a different undersea creature. Manbo the Sunfish evolved into Ikari the anchor-tailed shark, and finally, Grotessu, an elongated anglerfish. There's a fan theory that Ikari may have been originally planned to inhabit Johto's Lake of Rage. Ikari means both rage and anchor in Japanese, so it's possible the feisty shark was set to be the lake's big draw, but was instead replaced by the iconic red Gyarados. Along with the Akari line, there were plenty of other Pokemon that never made it to the final game. This included a creepy voodoo doll and its even creepier evolution that seemed to be the corpse of a dead panda, a 2-stage werewolf family, and the female cat Rinrin and its evolution Balulin were nixed. A Pokemon based on Slowking's Shellcrown was also cut. The electric tiger Pokemon Kotola and its evolution Raitola, both seen in prototypes for the first generation, returned in the Space World Demo League. Both would be cut once more. With the newer generations, there would be less information about cut and prototype Pokemon. This is because fewer assets would be leaked, and the developers were more careful in sharing details and artwork. If you're interested in learning more about the leak that brought out all the information on these Pokemon, you should check out the Memory Card podcast interview with the one and only Dr. Lava. Thanks again from us, PushDustIn and Ben Bertoli. If you want more Pokemon, you can also check out the DidYouKnowGaming video on the history of Pokemon rumors.